Carlton King, the former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy podcast, the show that shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection, and also, actually at more depth, looks at the world of geopolitics, the everyday world which we all inhabit, but the people at the top tend to control how we perceive things, how we understand what's going on in the world, how we even work. And this is why I have a lot of guests on who are from different spheres of life. Some of them don't even think about the world of secret intelligence. Some of them have an interest in it. But the main thing for these guests is that they're all affected in one way or the other by the wider world, as we all are, by geopolitics. Today's guest is no exception. Today's guest is Trevor Williams. In the 1970s, Trevor was a band member of Spookey and later on also in the band Sweet Sensation, which we all know. We know the song Sad Sweet Dreamer. I'm sure that's one that everybody's aware of. And the reason why I wanted Trevor on is not just that he's got a great story, because he has, but if you recall, I had Ashley Walters on, and we looked at the UK grime scene, the UK rap scene, and how that functioned, and the good and the bad, frankly, of that scene. Ashley was very forthcoming. And I want to ask Trevor, in the same vein, what happened with what we could call the UK soul scene, and how that functioned. So, Trevor, good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning, Carlton. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Very, very, very good. Trevor, what I basically want to do is I want to look at your life, but then interject that with how that music scene worked, who actually made the money, because that's what's important. You know, because when I was talking to Ashley, you found out that the money wasn't being made by them, and maybe your story is exactly the same. And how things might have changed if you're still connected to the scene, and just if you know, how you grew from that, which would be interesting to me. So the first thing I'd like to find out, my friend, is, you know, where did you grow up? How did you sort of get into this music scene? And were you always wanting to be in music?
I was born in 1959 to Jamaican immigrants who came to England, Manchester, in 1955.
Trev, can I stop you there, mate?
Yes.
And I'm going to only say this for one simple reason, and I'm saying it because I've been educating people. I've got a new system going, which is called critical thinking, right, which we do now and then. Actually, you're right when you say Jamaican immigrants, but they weren't immigrants. Actually, they were part of the British Empire. They came on British passports, no doubt.
Right.
They probably even fought in the Second World War, which the second largest, if not third largest contingent in the RAF in the Second World War were Jamaicans.
Yeah.
So basically, they were part of this country. They'd been told they were part of this country since 1643. They've been told they were part of this country, and basically this country had taken everything out of Jamaica since that time. Yeah. So in reality, you know, if I'm being critical, the point is that they weren't immigrants. They were coming to the country which they'd helped build, even if they'd never left Jamaica.
Jamaican citizens came to work here, didn't they?
Exactly, and they were basically British citizens.
Rephrase.
Exactly. British citizens of the British Empire who'd been helping the empire because their bauxite had been taken, their sugar had been taken, their whatever had been taken forever and a day, and they had a right to be here. So I like to say that just so people can understand it. But yeah, go on, Trev. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, so my dad came here to find work because things were hard in Jamaica. He left my mum pregnant with a child, but that child died.
Ooh.
A year later, my mum came over in 1956, and then I was born in 1959 in a place called Manchester Moss Side, which was a bit of a ghetto. I went to school, primary school. I went to secondary school, met friends, and it's through them friends we decided to form a group when I was about 16. But I just wanted to play guitar from about 14. I think I was just seeing something on TV, you want to be a pop star, those kind of things, and see people on talent shows like New Face and Opportunity Knocks. So I actually picked up the bass guitar at first. But by the age of 16, when I was going to youth clubs, meeting the friends from school, we decided to start a band, 4 singers and 4 musicians, styled off the American style bands like Temptation and Shy Lights, because...
Right. So this was just, you were playing the bass guitar, but was this just singing then, like Temptations, or were you playing your own music, is what I'm saying?
No. When you first join, when you first start playing music, you just learn to play, and then when you join a band with whatever preferred genre you're gonna do, whether it be reggae, soul, rock, or we decided to do soul because we were black people in England. There was no really black bands about doing soul. We were people like The Real Thing, Sweet Sensation, ourselves. We fashioned off American soul bands like the Isley Brothers, the Shy Lights, the Temptations, the Four Tops, soul. So I think we went to concerts, or I went to a concert and seen Earth, Wind and Fire and thought, I want to play in a band. But prior to that, we were just knocking about as friends. None of us could play instruments, so we all decided what we wanted to play. So I can remember the 8 of us sat down. Not one of us really could play instruments. I had a bit of a head start because I was playing a couple of years before we decided to start the band. So I was allocated bass, and other members would get drum singers. The 4 singers knew what they wanted to do, and we had our 4 musicians.
Right, so how many people were in the band then, Trev, in the beginning? So you was the bassist, you had a drummer, and then, where's your rhythm coming from?
We had a guitarist and we had a keyboard player.
Right.
We were like the main 4 friends, and then a couple of us had friends who wanted to be singers.
Right.
Singer, the bass man knew a singer, and the singer knew a singer. So before you know it, we had our 4 singers and 4 musicians, and none of us could really play. I had a little bit of a start tinkling about. So we were determined to become, musicians, pop stars, like you dream back in the day.
Yeah.
So we remember how a man giving us we hired a church. The priest let us use the church in evenings. And we all used to go to college or work out. We come straight there about 6 o'clock, start practicing till about 10. Go home. Every day we did this till we got better. We hardly knew a note. Anyway, the guitar man was struggling because of his height and his long fingers with the small rhythm guitar. And I was a bit short-fingered, and I was not really struggling with the bass, but he was struggling more than I. So I did the decent thing because he was really struggling. I'm saying that. Yeah, I mean, it was, when you think about it now, it's weird, but you just do anything you can to make the band succeed. So I said, kid, he was actually my best friend out of all of them in the group. And I used to go to school with him, walk school with him, went to both schools. So I says to him, you play this because your fingers are long, and see how you got on this. The bass is bigger, and we swapped. So he started doing the bass. The bass is not hard to pick up, and the drums, the keyboards and the guitar that's really hard. So there I am faced with I've been playing a 6-string guitar. It's all small, and then the big thick bass strings, which I could learn to maneuver on. He started getting on with the bass because he was maneuvering a bit around the guitar. So he then left me behind.
Right.
But I soon picked up, got help and things like that. And onwards we marched. Within about 8 months, we were ready to start gigging.
So how old are you now at this age, Trev? And also, just give me your age, and then I want you to go back into that school life for a quick second, just because you mentioned something about Moss Side. I want to get a feel for it. So how old are you at this stage when you just get into grips with it?
About 16.
Right. So school life, mate. We'll come back to the formation of the band. School life. So you're in Moss Side. You said it's a bit of a ghetto, but what do you mean by that? Because this goes out to America, this goes to Australia, wherever. People don't understand what you mean by that. Because it's not like an American ghetto. It's what do you mean by it?
It was where people who poverty-ridden people lived.
Black and white. Black and white.
Black and white mixed.
Yeah.
Moss Side was originally affluent because it was close to the town centre.
Yeah.
But had all the business owners living in Moss Side, close to the town centre. Anyway, as they got richer, they moved out.
Yeah.
The outer areas like Cheshire and the more affluent places of Manchester, and then they started to move people that come from abroad to work, and people that was who were born here that wasn't very affluent, who was working in the factories there. So it was a mixed community of white and black.
And was it like that in school as well?
Yeah, the school was white and black as well.
What sort of percentages are we talking about? Just so you can give people an idea so they understand.
I think it would have been 50-50. There would have been There would have been more black people. So we'll say 60-40, maybe 70-30. 60-40, I'd say, looking back. But it was them days, you didn't look at things like that. I can look at it from a perspective now, and I would say it's about 60-40.
And in terms of mates at school, were the mates, because you see, if you're looking at the States, you see, this is what I'm saying when people listening in the States, they have an idea of all black people in an area and all white people in an area. And even the white people can be split, with Italians or Italian Americans or whatever. So they look at it that way. In Britain, when you're saying you're at school, how did the blacks and the whites get on, or let's split it again, the Irish who were there, how were they getting on? What was the dynamic like?
Well, you see, I can remember when I was young, before I left school, we used to see signs on a guest house and things like that saying, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. So there was prejudice against Irish and the blacks. But some English people took to us, as you can imagine. But it was a very racist place, England, at them times. And it's still racist now, but not so much. It's maybe gone underground as we move on. But yeah, I had white mates. I had black mates who I didn't get on with. I had white mates who I didn't get on with. I had white mates who did. So it just varied. You just found out who didn't like you from who didn't very quickly, because you could be quite easily walking down the road and someone would be shouting names at you and start running after you to, give you a good hiding. So you had to learn to run or learn to fight. I did both.
Right. This is what I want to work to, you see, because I remember that as a child, we were in a basically an all white area, not that far from Manchester, in fact. 25 miles, something like that. And what we used to do is now and then, because that's where the majority of black people of West Indian heritage were, or black West Indians were, we would go up into Manchester. And I remember the signs: no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. I remember sometimes a sign saying no blacks, no Irish, or sometimes a sign saying no dogs, no blacks. But it was always no blacks. I do remember that. So when we used to go. So you got that sort of feel that of racism, which was obviously prevalent in our area as well. And then there was the National Front, which for people who don't know was a political organisation that was talking about Britain just for white people, etc., etc. So you had all that. And then obviously you had the battles which you had where you had to stand your ground and fight. Now, for me, in doing that, I became a kung fu man. What was your way of sort of standing your ground?
My way was learning between the 8 and I think one day I was going down the road. I mean, I knew how to avoid and deal with the National Front or people who was racist who wanted to come do me harm. But I was just walking down the road one day, and a guy that I used to go to school with took me a bag of sweets. I mean, you probably heard the story so many times being a West Indian. So I've gone home crying now. My dad just happened to be there. He said, "What are you crying for, son?" I said, "Someone's took my sweets." Well, he gave me a good hiding and told me to go and get my sweets. I ran out of the house so angry that I just got this hiding. I went and got my sweets.
Yeah.
I gave him a good hiding, got the sweets back. So I went home, but I said, "Well, that's right. Anybody touch your stuff or do anything, you hit them back." Then nowadays they tell you can't hit people back on it, but our days, we were told in also don't let people bully you.
Yeah. And of course, bullying could be for any reason, not necessarily because you're black or white.
Yeah.
But you just had to stand your ground. You had to learn to stand your ground.
As you know. So they realised that, because I was like the first child to them, and they're growing up in an environment that they're learning about, they realise that it's very dangerous out there, so we better send them to some lessons to learn to fight.
Right.
And just out of the blue, they took me to judo. They could have took me boxing. Karate wasn't really around then. It was like judo or boxing. They thought the boxing probably would have been too dangerous, head injuries, things like that, and the front. So, but they thought judo was not so aggressive. Yeah, just throwing and things like that. So and then I think they had a friend whose son went, and they said, "Oh, maybe take Trevor along," and that's what happened. I went with a guy called Tony to judo. I also joined the Scouts, Cubs with him. Yeah. He went, he was like a one-parent family, a mixed race guy. He was born of a black parent and an English mother, black father and English mother. So we had 5 in our family. So
yeah,
but it wasn't too good. So I went with him to the Cubs. I went to him with judo first, then followed him to the Cubs. He was my good little friend. Anyway, from the age, I stuck with the judo from 8 till about 11. And then we moved, they demolished the terrace houses around about the age of 11 in Manchester to build, flats and masonettes and all that kind of thing, what you'll probably see today. And they moved us to another part of Manchester called Longside, which was a mixed, resident, black or white. It wasn't that where we moved to in my side had already been knocked down. The terrace houses had already been knocked down, and it was proper nice masonette houses. So we thought we were moving into a posher area, but we just moved into a better house.
right, okay. So the people weren't any posher. The housing was. Yeah.
But when I say a better house, my dad, the house he bought on Harpenden Street, when he first came to Manchester, he was staying with a friend. And then he brought my mum over a year later, and the two of them was in this one little box room. My dad was up working, my mum found work, and I came along. And the man didn't want any kids in his house. So because my dad had been working hard for a year or so, saving his money, he managed to put down a £5,000, £2,000 deposit on like a 3-story house. Victorian house. And that's how all the houses were, because the rich used to live there. That's how they were like Victorian style looking. But they moved out, so all these rich looking houses became houses that the masses could buy of the ghetto. So my dad fortunately put £2,000 down, he told me. And then the house cost him £5,000 in 1960 or so, about 1959 when I was born, because they had to leave because of me. So he bought this house for it cost him £5,000 in total, and he's give £2,000 in the deposit. So when it came to 1975 now, about 1970, they decided to knock the house down, knock all the houses down there. So they paid the people the money they thought the houses worth, and then rehoused them in government property. So with one fell swoop, my dad had to leave his own property, take pittance in a 3-story house. Now, there's some still about, but not in my side, just slightly outside. Them 3-story house that my dad had, if it was to be sold today, it'd be like £1 million.
Indeed, in 1960, when your dad bought his house, that was good money your dad put down. He worked hard, really good money. Yeah. So what wasn't little money? That's a lot of money.
Yeah. My dad, when he came to the country, he never not worked. You know those old folks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like your own dad, he just worked and worked and worked. He didn't even go sick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, worked hard.
So he bought that for about £10,000 to £5,000. I remember you saying they gave him from 1959 to 1970. They gave him £15,000.
Oh, joke.
Which was, he knew then, everybody knew, but everybody was in the same boat. All the terrace houses were bought. There was no council house as such. The council houses came from when those got knocked down, the terrace houses, and made into what there is today, like masonettes and flats and houses, modern designs. But majority of the people had to buy them houses. I think I didn't own the house. Somebody did and they rented it. But council was a thing, as far as I know. Maybe historians or yourself might tell me different. But as far as I know, everybody bought their little house and got paid pittance. Yeah. And had to go. They do these things.
Compulsory purchase.
They do these things these days when they want to build a railroad or a runway through people's houses. They're telling they've got to move. Yeah. And they take what they're given.
So your old man was a hard worker. Your mother, did your mother work?
Right, my mother came into England as a seamstress.
Right.
My dad actually went to America first when he left Jamaica, but didn't like it because he saw the guns. My dad was a bit squeamish.
Okay.
So he saw that he was working in the emissions, and where they make bullets and things like that. What do you call it?
Munitions factories. Yeah.
So he didn't like it. So he's gone back to Jamaica, regrouped, and come to England, and then that's how we stayed. And then got my mother here, and I was born with 5 others.
So did she make all your own clothing for you? Did she work in that same?
She when she came here, she realised that. One thing about my mother, she was a bit more savvy business-wise than my dad. All my dad wanted to do is come here, work like they do, and look after the family. My mum was a bit young, about 10 years younger. My mum came to England when she was 16.
Right, okay.
So she's thought, hang on a minute, I'm going to educate myself. Yeah. So she started going colleges and things like that. She got because she was black, she was getting a lot of obstacles put in the way, but somehow she managed to get through. And she ended up because of this house what my dad had, there was a cellar. All these houses had cellars. Mm-hmm. People used to have parties in the cellars and sell drinks, money on the side. Anyway, she decides now to do hairdressing. She got no experience in hairdressing, but the community was such. She saw a market that the white people weren't doing the black people.
But they didn't know how to do it, did they? Didn't know how to do that.
Right, exactly. So she saw that and started to open like a salad in the basement.
Yeah, and made money that way. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
She was making money in the salad, and so the kids are coming along. She could work at home, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what you've got in your childhood is a very interesting thing. You've got tenacity of your parents. You've got a hard-working old man who wants to work, gets out, buys his house. You've got a very smart and savvy mum who's educated, who's thinking forward, sees business opportunities and jumps in and takes it. And I'd imagine that hairdressing was very, very good in those days in terms of the black community, because there wouldn't have been that many doing it. So she's savvy, so you got more monies coming in. Yes, you got a big family, which takes away from that more money. But would you say that your sort of upbringing was one of, well, it wouldn't be one of poverty, would it? You'd be above poverty, wouldn't you? Because of that sort of savviness.
Yeah, we were slightly above, because most people just worked in factories.
Yeah.
But because of my mum's ambitions,
yeah,
she started doing the hairdressing in the community. They in this area now, everybody knows my mum as the first woman to really start hairdressing.
Gotcha.
That's her notoriety.
Yeah.
Anyway, she realised in the cellar wasn't going to cut it too long. She cut her teeth in the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
She realised she needed to get a diploma or something. So she started to go to night school to get a diploma for hairdressing. In the meanwhile, she was doing a little basement thing. When she gets that diploma now, she buys a shop, because my dad's working. She's made a bit of money in this area. She buys a shop in Oldham, which is about 10 miles away from Moss Side, which is on the other side of town. That was a predominantly white area. Mm. If I went to Oldham for the day, I'd risk my life and limb to get back to home.
Yeah.
But she had a local shop on the main road, and she saw the shop, opened it, but then she found no black people was traveling too far up there, and then the white people were coming in, so that business wasn't doing too good. But like my mum again, she said, right, I've got to get a shop in the ghetto, Moss Side. So she sells that shop up and buys a shop in Old Trafford. That's about 2 minutes from Moss Side. It's adjacent in Shrewsbury Street. And she never looked back.
Right.
All the black people used to come to her. Other people started to open shops in the area, but there was very few. And because my mum had the head start, them people, she probably trained them, and they left to do that. So she was the master sort of thing. Everybody knows the shop. Everybody knows. If I say to somebody, remember my mum, do you know a lady called Nez? She's dead now, but she's done that. Oh, yes. It was like a folk poet as well, you know what I mean? You could get your bearings through Ned's shop. You knew where the bun shop was there. Anyway, that shop she had for years. I mean, when we all left home from Longsight, she left that house and moved into the shop because she was paying rent on the house and paying rent on the shop.
Yeah.
So her and my dad and my youngest brother moved into the shop because they had a 2-3 bedroom upstairs. Mm-hmm. So she started to live there with my dad and my youngest brother.
Makes sense.
My sister and me had moved out and doing our own thing by then.
So did you think that, number one, your mum's an entrepreneur? That's the language you'd use, an entrepreneur. Then, of course, the other thing which you haven't mentioned, but I know from looking at it, was that banks weren't very happy at lending money to black people in those days. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, I always try and even things out. Banks basically looked at individuals, and the bank manager was a very powerful guy because he could make decisions on who would get a loan or who wouldn't for their business. So they generally looked at business people or people they thought were business people and gave them loans. Now, black people, because of racism or because of just they didn't think as blacks as a mercantile class, weren't getting any loans. And unlike Asian society, who didn't get loans when they were in Britain, the difference was with the Asian society, with India with a billion people, or in those days probably 800 million people. Pakistan with about, in those days, let's say 200 million people, they had their own banks that they could depend on. So they could get a loan from the Bank of India, they could get a loan from the Bank of Pakistan, etc., etc. The West Indian societies, as you know, Jamaica is by far the biggest island, and in those days, probably Jamaican's population is probably no more than 3 million, I would imagine. And when you start jumping down to other islands, it's like hundreds of thousands maximum. So 250,000, 300,000. So they haven't got their own banking systems. They're depending on Barclays Bank in Jamaica. So you can't go to a bank manager that's going to give you a loan. Yeah. So your mother and father, we cannot underplay what they did to get them funds to start your mother's own shop was incredibly difficult. Because I know the bank wasn't lending her any money. Right?
Well, I realised how remarkable and incredible she was when you get old. But when you're a kid, you just see her go into it, doing things. But what I know now is that because there was no banks, like you say, there was a thing called partner that the West Indians used to do, where everyone would throw money in at the week, and that would go to one person. So that's how they had their own little bank system.
Because the bank didn't cater for them.
Right, and I know that my mum was able to borrow from a rich Pakistani man.
Right.
At interest.
Yeah.
So you used to see him every weekend come with his book and collect money. I used to go and pay him. So go and give Mr. Khan the money, Trevor. And I used to go. I used to see him as somebody collecting money. I didn't know why.
See, now this is the beauty of it. This is the stories we're getting to now, which people will never have heard of. People say, well, how come these folk never made any money? Why didn't they do it? Because they didn't realise how difficult it was to even get your business plan off the ground. Wow. Forget business. You just couldn't get the money to start off. Every business needs money to kick off. And if you can't get money, that's you nigh on finished. But the tenacity of your mother to think past that, to work her way through that is, unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So, in fact, what I could have done is 2 shows with you to look at that. But let's carry on. Let's go. We may come back at another stage, but I'm conscious of time. So I'm going to make that big jump because I think we'll come back to that, and I think I will have in another show at some stage. But let's make a big jump now to you, the 16-year-old who started playing about. Your parents don't play instruments. Your friends' parents seem not to, and your friends are getting to play a guitar. You're moving around thinking, well, your fingers are bigger, so I'll take this, whatever. Because you've got the tenacity now to make it into a band. So the question is, to my mind, is when do you get good enough that you turn around and say, you know what, lads, let's go for it? When does that happen?
Well, like I say, you push for time, so I'll do what I can to help with that time. Well, what happened was, like, I seen, you watch things on TV, you got oldest brothers and spouses, older brothers' friends that are in bands or starting bands, and you just knew there wasn't a future in work or any opportunities. I learned that very early because, my parents used to speak to me. I had an elder brother, half brother, and sister, my twins, who my dad brought from Jamaica, so they used to speak to me a lot. People used to come and live in the house that my dad had, come from Jamaica, and they brought their kids. So you learn things about Jamaica, you learn things about certain things, you learn things about life. So I think I deduced, or most of my mates deduced, that we didn't want to work in factories like our parents. So the next best thing, was to start a band. it's just as simple as that, as naive as that,
Yeah.
Because, you always, folks just think, oh, I want an easy life and do something that I love as well. And that still goes on today, as you know.
But it's not easy, though, is it? That's the whole point. Easy. It's absolutely difficult.
Yeah. So, like I said, I started playing at 14 and then playing tinkling guitar. Not seriously, just practicing every now and again. But when we decided between ourselves, in our naivety, to start a band and get rich and famous like the American soul band, not knowing what they had to go through,
exactly,
we'd emulate it. In England, there wasn't really many soul bands in England before our time.
Could you name any, Trev? Could you name any of the soul bands that you thought had made it? What are we talking about now? 70?
It was all the soul bands. Because by the time I started, by the time my band got together and started rehearsing, Sweet Sensation came out. The Real Thing came out.
Right.
Now
So you're talking 73, 74?
Yeah. So I even now I struggle to think who came before them as black bands, soul bands.
Yeah, I'm struggling, and I was a DJ, so I'm struggling to think of the other British black bands. Mac and Katie Kassoon might have been doing something early on.
Time, maybe.
Probably not getting anywhere, but they got hits later on, didn't they, Mac and Katie?
Yeah.
But they might have been doing a few bits and babs. I'm trying to think like you are. So, well, hang on. There were bands like Labby Sifri, but playing a different type of music.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He was like, we fashioned ourselves with, like I said, the Temptation, the Shy Lights, them kind of four top. So if you look at Sweet Sensation, they were an 8-piece band, 4 musicians, 4 singers. If you look at Real Thing, musicians and 4 brothers or 2 brothers and 2, mates. And that's how we're all mates. We're not all great musicians or you're genius. We all just wanted to go on the road, make music, make money, and all the trappings, like you do. Dream of good life. So I can remember the Real Thing just starting and Sweet Sensation just starting. And then while we were practicing, but we wanted to go, we were ambitious, so we used to practice every day as much as we can. And like I say, within 6 months, we got a set together.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, let's try and get somewhere now to play.
Who was the manager? Who was amongst the crew?
Well,
who was the business manager?
I'll tell you now. So we, meanwhile, we're going to concerts, American concerts when they came here. Listening to American music, soul music, learning how the lyrics and things like that. So in the meantime, we found a place. It was a place in Mossad called the West Indian Centre, where by the 70s, the black people had built like a community centre, because they couldn't go to clubs in town or anything like that. So they built got an old building and done it up as like a West Indian club, yeah. Mm-hmm. So they used to have people come in there playing music from London or Jamaica sometimes, or in Birmingham, to entertain the crowds now and again on the Saturday. Other than that, it was music, sound music on a Saturday night. Well, we persuaded the manager, I can't remember his name now, but I think the
Yeah, I think I do, yeah.
I think you might know the thing. Mossad, West Indian Centre it was. And there was Carmel Road as well. Do you ever remember that?
Yeah, Carmel Road, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Mr.
I forgot the names, but I do remember.
You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, we went to, because they were like another Caribbean place, but they were in Longsight where I used to live after leaving my side. So we taught them 2 around. So we're doing West Indian Centre in Mossad 1 week, and the following weekend was going to do Carmel Road. Mm. So the manager of Westwood Street gave us 2 half-an-hour spots. Mm-hmm. Well, considering we practiced 12 months and we thought we were the real deal, when the first half an hour, we literally got booed. And so abused and told. And we were rubbish. I can remember after.
Jeff, can I ask you a serious question now, mate? And you to answer in total honesty. Were you rubbish?
Well, I can't answer that question. But we weren't rubbish, but we knew we did rubbish on that day.
Right, okay, you weren't polished on that day. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we were learning. So my knees were shaking when we went out.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, we come back in the dressing room after half an hour. The manager comes in and says, "You all right, lads?" We said, "Well, no." He said, "That wasn't good." I said, "We know." He said, "You want to pack up or go?" So we said, "We'll just pack up and go." He said, "No." He said, "Do that half hour. You might as well. You're here now, so you might have seen something."
Yeah.
We're in dressing room now thinking, or talking amongst ourselves, what was bad, what was not. And then because we wanted to do well, we like infuse that young lad. We said, listen, we've done bad. This was the attitude. We've done bad. We can't do any worse.
Yeah, true.
And it's practice at the end of the day. So we went out for the second half an hour, about an hour later, and, we tore the place down.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So it was the nerves, I reckon, at the beginning. But then once we lost all that, we had nothing to lose. We had the place screaming and shouting by the end of the half an hour. By the end of the other half an hour. So when we walked out of that building that night, we knew we could maybe do something.
Yeah.
We played at Carmore Road the following week, and there was a black fella there who earned a car business, and he had managed a little band called Decision that didn't really do anything, we were told. And we watched that show. We did all right in that show, though, and he came and seen us in that week and said he'd like to manage the band. Well, we knew that management were a bit dodgy back in there because we spoke to other band members and things. So we got him vetted as best we could.
Yeah.
And because he was like a black fella as opposed to a white fella, we thought he'll look after us. Little did we know.
Mistake number one.
We'd have probably been better off playing with a white man or an English man, because they would at least made sure we had some money in our pocket. You've heard the story. Anyway, so we didn't taking us on now the following week. By the second week, we was on an agency, because you had to have an agency to get you to work.
Yeah.
And then from he came on board, within 2 weeks, he got an agency, and the agency started working, and we're still practicing. By the time we knew it, we're flying up and down England, from John O'Groats to Land's End, playing.
So can I ask, where were you playing though? Were you playing predominantly black places, or were you playing everywhere?
The West Indian Centre in Moss Side and the Carmore Road in Longside were the only two black places.
Right, brilliant. So you broke through already straight away.
Yeah. So the agency gave us our first gig in Newcastle.
Tough crowd.
Right, in a con club or labour club.
Yeah, tough crowd, mate. I've done those clubs. Tough crowd.
You talk about make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. You can make it in conservative clubs in England and labour clubs.
Labour clubs, you
can make it anywhere.
Yeah. Working men's clubs. You'd have been doing the working men's clubs thing. Yeah.
Now, so we start, and before you know it, the years pass, and we're working Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. Or if you work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it'll be Friday, Saturday. So we're probably working like 100 gigs, because there's 365 weeks in a year, isn't there?
Yeah. So let me. We're not going to race this through, Trevor. I'm going to have you back on the show for part 2. We're not going to race it because it's so interesting. So
thank you.
Let's work through this. So you're 16.
Yeah.
You make your gig.
Yeah.
You get into Carmore Road, you get into the West Indian Club, you're doing your gig in front of West End. You get rid of your nerves, you get the feel. You've got your 8-man band still. Yeah. It's all men, isn't it? Your 8-man band, you've got it, or 8-boy band, however you want to call it. Yeah. You've got your band. You're playing your own music still. So that's the question I'm asking. But you're not playing your music. What's happening?
When you start out, it's not wise. We were told, and I still believe to this day, it's not wise when you're starting out and you're going in clubs to play your own music.
Sorry. No, what I mean by that is, when I say you're playing your own music, you are playing the instruments.
Oh, yeah.
You are playing the instruments. So you're capable enough to play the instruments.
Yes.
Because you've played down your musical capacity a little bit. You've said we were quite poor. But by this stage, you've actually got enough musical ability to play your own sounds.
Yeah, it was just the nerves. It was just nerves. We practiced for months and months. So when we went to the first gig, it was now learning how to manipulate a crowd. It's all right playing in a church hall and enjoying it.
Gotcha.
You have to go manipulate a crowd and you learn things. So after working in the West Indian 2 clubs, and then they put us on the road, even then, sometimes the crowd didn't take to us because sometimes they didn't like the soul music. They bring it to rock music. Sometimes we play some rock music, right? And we couldn't. We weren't playing rock. Some people were prejudiced and just wanted us there at their club. Used to lob things at us and throw cigarette butts sticking to our sweaty skin as we've got our shirts off trying to woo the women in the crowd. So Yeah, but we was all capable. And we were
Right, so this is interesting, Trevor. And I'm sorry, I just thought I'd let you come back in. The reason why I say that, you do realise, because, look, I did a lot of working men's clubs. I was a DJ compere, as well as a DJ and club DJ, etc. A lot of bands actually can't play well. Let's think of a bigger band, like Bay City Rollers. You must have heard of them, right? Massive band, as you know. You're an Englishman. You know Bay City Rollers, right? Massive band. You know Bay City Rollers couldn't play?
Yes, I know.
Right? And Bay City Rollers got found out when one day their tape broke down and they couldn't play a note. Right, so you could make it all the way to the top even in those days, and not know how to play. So what I'm trying to get from you is you did know how to play.
Yeah.
So you could play your own.
We all could play. We all learned to play over the years. We all got rid of the nerves and the singers learned how to work a crowd. We learned what worked and what didn't. But we used to do cover soul, just like for America. The people were familiar with them. So, and then disco started coming around, started doing disco soul and all that. And just generally go to clubs, do our stuff, and hopefully the crowd enjoyed it.
So in that time period, what are we now? We're probably about 75, 70.
No, I left school at 75, yeah.
Ah, so what are we about now?
77. So for a full year, for the first year, all we did was cut our teeth, as they say, up and down the country. We didn't just do con clubs and labour clubs. We did like the nightclub in towns and cities from Swansea, Derby, we did Tiffany's and places like that. Anywhere the agents.
And your manager is getting you these gigs, yeah? Via the agencies.
The agents getting us the gig. Wherever they send us, we go, Right.
But the manager's making that connection for you still.
Yeah, the managers just make sure we get where we're going and got a little wage. So they took.
Right. So this is the question I want to ask you now. So it's 77. Mm-hmm. It's disco music.
Yeah.
It's Real Finger doing well.
Yeah.
Sweet Sensation had a great hit going back in time.
Yeah.
So
the hit.
Exactly. There's quite a few black bands now, Matt and Kate Kassoon, etc., making a couple of quid on that. How are you getting paid?
We're getting paid from the manager.
Right. Did you know what the manager was getting paid from the agent?
The agent was pretty.
No, but did you know what he was paying the manager, or did the manager just tell you?
He took 15% of what we earned, and the agent did. So that left 70% to split between the band.
Yeah. But did you know what the original payment was?
Yeah, we knew how much we was making every night.
Right. Okay, you did know. Okay, because I know a lot of bands I've spoken to didn't know what they were getting paid. The manager took care of all of that and give them money. Yeah,
but see, I come from just outside that era.
Yeah.
People started to get savvy then.
Yes, with you. So you were already aware. That's great. Yeah. That's great.
So we usually check with the club the invoice, because we're at the club. We see the manager. We said to the manager, "Can you just check that confirm that we're getting paid this?"
Brilliant.
They would.
Brilliant.
Because they had to give invoices and things like that. If the club and the agent had something going on, then we wouldn't know. Yeah. But invariably, the managers of the place, they didn't know. It's just phone calls and just book me somebody. It was between the agent and manager. You got to be careful.
Yes.
So, but we were savvy enough to know that we need to know how much we're getting paid, and what. So everything was running smooth. It was getting paid. The manager was making sure that we was always ready to go. If anything broke down, we was able to go to the bank and fix it and get on our way. We were so savvy that the manager couldn't draw any money out of the Spookey account unless.
All right.
But we were so savvy, he could draw no money out of our account. Nobody could. Not even a band member could. They had to have three singers.
Signatures.
One would be the manager. One would be the manager. One would be a musician, and one would be a singer. So the four singers couldn't rob the musicians because you have to have the musician's signature. We couldn't rob. We had it boxed in that way because we'd learned. And like I said, we were all like savvy lads from day one. We just knew what we had to do, what we needed to do. Some of the lads were university boys. So they had family and learned of people, so we was on it.
See, that's quite unusual, because a lot of the bands that I knew didn't know that. They were basically being robbed day in, day out. That's interesting. So you're on top of your game as far as that was concerned.
Well, you see, nowadays, they're even more savvy.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you know. But in our day, we saw what the Beatles and all that went through, Elton John and people going through, and we decided, well, a lot of bands decided that, we're not going that way. Like the bands of the 70s, should we say, late 70s. So we started to get our thing, We still got robbed, but money went missing. But they thought, I'll tell you about that another time.
Yeah, next part. Absolutely, yeah. I want to hear all that. Okay. So where we are now, just running us through, we're at this. You're 1977. You're now getting the following. Yeah. So now, obviously, your next step's got to be, because in those days it was all about record companies, it's got to be getting to a record company. What are you trying to do there?
Well, the idea was to play, cut our teeth in England, and somebody may see us. That's all it is. Somebody may hear about us, somebody might see us and tell a recording company, hey, I'm on to come and see the band. That's how it worked.
Yeah.
So you just played. You never know when our recording company man would be in a building, because they just went out for night outs and things like that. So, you could be seeing in the street, as you know, if you're a monster, thing like that. So we're playing in the club at the same time. We're earning money, and we know it's not going to be a short-term thing. We've only been playing a year or two. We're looking at a span of like 3 years or so before we get a deal.
Mm-hmm. So
we're not rushing. We're not anxious to get. All we're doing now is playing and earning money.
Yeah.
Okay, like you do. So like for the first couple of years, it was like England running about, like I said, if it's 365
days in the year, yeah.
It's 52 weeks in a year, and we're playing 3 times a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100 odd shows a year. Within 2 years now, bang, somebody sees us.
Right. Where was that? Where were you playing?
Well, the first year we did England. And in the second year now, we were doing England all over, but we went to Germany.
Right. Germans
like the army bases. I know you will know.
Yeah, absolutely. American bases.
And then we started to do the American Air Force bases all over the country. So we were just gigging. One day we was in London playing in a place called Gulliver's.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody spotted us. I can't remember who now. Recording company man.
Yeah.
And got in touch with Bob. The next thing you know, no, it wasn't a recording company. Sorry. Opportunity. Somebody seen us and said you should go on Opportunity Knocks.
Right.
By the same time now, the recording company people seen us. Just everything sort of like coincided. Everything aligned. So in the meantime, we're going on this talent show now to worldwide TV in England, all over the country. We're going on this talent show. Hopefully we can win it, because if you win a talent show like today, if you win X Factor or you can make another leap forward.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to win Opportunity. We managed to get on it. We're hoping to win it. By this time, we didn't like the same kind of week or just before we knew we was going on Opportunity. Recording company was interested. And we signed up with them for 3 singles and an album.
Brilliant.
Yeah, over a 12-month period or a 3-year deal. But sometimes, you can say 1 single, it does nothing. 2 singles, you can get dropped, or you can do 2 singles, it goes, and they keep trying. It just depends how they feel about you.
Yeah.
You're at their mercy. Yeah. You can only just go and play and entertain, which we did. So that's how. So this was about 1979 now, 1980, when we got a recording deal, and we went on Opportunity Knocks. Well, needless to say, we didn't win Opportunity Knocks. We came 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Huey Green used to host the show. Simon Carroll. It was his show.
Yeah.
So he obviously the Thames were filming it, but it was like his creation, just like Simon Carroll created it. I remember one of his spokesmen coming in or whatever saying to us, you sign this piece of paper in front of the manager and us And the band, if you sign this piece of paper, you will win the show, but you just got to give us 50% of your earnings. So,
Jeez, humanity.
for 5 years.
Jeez.
So we're like, yes, we'll win this show. We don't mind paying the half of our money. But we'll get on exposure.
Yeah.
For 5 years, we can live with that. After that, we're free. By that time, we would have done lots of records. The manager said no.
Right, of course, because he's cut out. Yeah, because Hughie Green's managing you. So let me just explain Opportunity Knocks. Opportunity Knocks was in Britain, for those who are not British, it was an absolutely massive show. It's like, as you said before, any of Simon Cowell's Britain's Got Talent, or America's Got Talent, or Australia's Got Talent,
X Factor, anything like that.
X Factor. It was a massive show every Saturday on ITV. Drew in something like, I think I'm right in saying 20 million.
Yeah, it was the only show.
Yeah, massive show. So if you win that, you were made. So I'm just explaining to people so they can understand why you'd say, I'll give half my earnings away. Yeah. Because it was that big. Sorry.
The limits.
Carry on, Trevor.
It was worth giving away 5 years, half of your money, because, after that, it's millions sort of thing. Yeah. If you're successful, and these people would make you successful.
Yeah.
He wants to make money, the company that Hughie Green was thinking, so they would push you.
Yeah.
Anyway, my manager objects. Needless to say, we came third.
So how come you didn't overturn Bob? How come the 8 of you didn't say, Bob, listen, we want that?
Right. First thing, we were signed to him.
Right.
We weren't signed to him. And he was always saying to you need to sign, because he was frightened of us when we get where we're going.
Dropping him.
I feel he's given us help for 3 years.
Yeah.
So we as lads know that's not right. We stick with this manager.
Yeah.
But, so we stuck with him. We were doing nothing wrong, but when we went to sign just before we went on the show for Opportunity Knocks, he realised that if we win, because there's a good chance, because he knows how good he knows the buzz.
Yeah.
If we win, he could be out of it because we'd signed.
Cutthroat business.
So he's always been saying you need to sign a contract. This is before, to safeguard himself. Yeah. When it came to the crunch now, Opportunity Knocks, he's come in the dressing room and said, right, lads, you need to sign this contract. So we said, well, no, we're not signing this contract. Let's have we'll think about it a bit. What's your rush? We're not going to cut you out. He said, but you buy it, lads. He said, yeah. He said, he didn't trust anybody, which you know why they don't. But we're naive. We're not going to turn our back on our managers. Helped us this final naivety. But we wouldn't, in our hearts and hearts, we wouldn't let that man go.
Yeah.
But he insisted something had to be done on paper. And what we held out, let's just check him out a bit more. But we'll keep him, but check him out. But he came in the dressing room about 10 minutes before we was due on the show and says, you have to sign this contract, I'm pulling you out.
Right.
Because, and that couldn't have happened, but that's what we thought. So we signed the contract. Well, so we just want to sign the contract and get on telly now, you know what I mean? He's telling us we cannot go on if we don't sign this contract. We signed for 5 years.
Trev, can I ask you a question? Do you think that he knew that Opportunity Knocks wanted you?
I wouldn't know. I can't hand on that. I wouldn't know. I'd have to ask him that. He is still alive, actually.
I was just wondering whether he'd already been given the gypsies warning. Listen, we want these lads. And they'd gone to him to ask him whether they wanted you, And seeing that, he thought, hey, best I get these boys signed up, otherwise I've lost them. Well,
funny enough, it could be so where he thinks he knows we're going places or whatever. So just to protect himself, he was savvy. He had a garage business and everything, so selling high-class cars. So he knew business. He's an older man to us. He was like our dad.
And he's put money in you, hasn't he? He's put money into you.
Yeah. And that's why we wouldn't turn our back on him, but he's making sure we don't, because he knows people can do that.
Yeah.
He probably had an idea that we wouldn't, but he's just making sure nobody else gets us. You with me? That's the potential. That's the faith he had in us. Yeah. All the other bandits, man, he's never got that far.
Yeah.
So, we was enthusiastic. Nothing was going to stop. Believe me, nothing was going to stop us. Only a freight train, so to speak. Anyway, we signed and we were on the TV. And We made we come off the TV. There's a buzz everywhere. We made record. The first record we made got top 40, Radio 1. Yeah, for a week.
That's good.
It got power played.
What was the record called?
The record was wrote by Ben Findon, who wrote songs for like the Dooley families.
Right, yeah.
There's a family called Dooley family. He wrote songs for them. Ben Findon. He wrote a song for us called "Taking the Lid Off This Affair."
Right.
It was top 40. He got Dave Lee Travis.
Dave Lee Travis. There you going back. Radio 1. Yeah.
We played on the hour, every hour for a week.
Power play. Dave Lee Travis. Yeah.
So we're getting this power play. We've come on opportunity nuts. I've gone from walking down the street in my side to getting dropped off in a limousine in my side.
Brilliant. So the money is rolling. The money's rolling.
Yeah, we're starting in the ghetto. We're feeling good, upwards and onwards.
Right. So let me now stop you there because we've done 1 hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you because I want to come back for part 2. And we're going to start with you actually getting the feel of being, a main player, getting the limousine drops and the rest of it, and how it moves.
As far as we were concerned, we'd made it.
You made it.
Up and onwards, we're going to start making millions. Yeah, everybody's bowing down to us in the ghetto. Well done, lads. My mum and dad are really proud after really breaking the net to buy me a £300 guitar because the guitar I had when I started practicing was not right for the stage. I had to go to my mum and dad at the age of 16 and ask them for this guitar which cost £300. They nearly dropped dead.
Hell, yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot of money. Anyway,
hell of a lot of money.
Well, my dad must have seen, well, don't stop this boy on his tracks because he could have a future in this. Where my mum was saying, bloody music, go to work.
Yeah.
He reluctantly dragged me down to the shop. And on my dad's advice, because I heard him talking, listening. And she was told, basically, buy him his guitar, don't stop him. Years from now, right, he could have been a musician and you stopped him, he's not going to be good. Things like that. So my dad now... trying to ring.
So would you say would you say that your dad saw the talent, or would you say that your mother thought it might be fanciful, and that everybody tries this music business, but once it's finished, what then?
Well, with your own experience, Carlton, sorry about that. With your own experience that you brought up to the school, educate yourself and work.
Correct. So
when I said to my mum, at 16, I need a guitar, a proper guitar, because I'm going to join a band. She thought I'd lost my head.
Yeah.
It was my dad the one, and my dad even thought, what are you doing that for? But then when he saw I was determined you were going to stop me, he decided to help.
Yes. Did you ever get to pay your parents back for that?
Oh, yes.
But we'll talk in the next show because I want to get to you being the limousine guy and the drop off and the likes.
So let me just, so when we've done Opportunity Knocks now, we came third, but everybody probably thought we're a good band and we should have won. We've just cut a single, it's got top 40. And like I said, I've gone from walking around Manchester, coming home with my guitar in my hand and I've been away or whatever for the day or whatever, to getting dropped off in limousines and looking, like Mike Shaft, just to kill all the jewelry. Yeah. And I think that would be about it now. Then the next stage I can tell you about.
Yeah, brilliant.
By this time, we're like, yes, we've made the right decision buying a guitar.
Yeah.
By this time, I showered my mum and dad with stuff, presents, everything. God name.
Brilliant.
Because we started to go into Europe by this time.
Yeah. Brilliant.
We've done Germany.
What I want to do on the next one, I want to look at the sort of finances. In fact, can we just look very quickly at the finances at this stage? So let's just before Opportunity Knocks and just after, what's the finances like? Because what I'm conscious of is I know a lot of people who break out from a band break out for one thing, money, because you've got 8 mouths to feed. So if you can actually be a solo singer, that's just one mouth to feed.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the money like coming up to Opportunity Knocks?
Well, like I said, we were pretty savvy, so everything was nice. Now,
what sort of salary? If you can give me an idea, what in comparison to the normal person?
I was going at £300 a week. Yeah.
Right.
In the 70s. And that was example for me, a single man.
Yeah, which is good money. For people who don't understand, in 1970s, that's not bad money.
Yeah. I was living with my mum and going to my girlfriend's parents' house, staying there, just paying my way. Because I wasn't around in England long as, a couple of days and gone. Anyway, the finances were okay. And we had learned from other bands that lead singers tend to get off on their own because they think that they can do it on their own.
Correct, and make money.
Yeah, and the other singers and the band members are left stranded.
Yes.
So our manager realised that as well. So he signed us up individually to everything. So I was signed to the drummer individually. The drummer was signed to the singer individually. We're all signed up individually.
Right, interesting.
So if the lead singer left, I broke the contract because we all signed up for 5 years with Bob. If any of us broke if I left, fine, they replaced me. But if I left to make money, they'd still have a share in my money.
Of your money.
So there was, they can leave if they want and go and have the solo careers. We'd carry on, but we'd be getting some of their money. Yeah,
percentages stay with you.
Yeah,
your manager was good.
Yeah, our singers knew this while we were signing them up. And he protected the musicians, he protected them as well, because we could say, right, we're going to go and play with Fleetwood Mac or something like that and leave them stranded.
Yeah.
So we were all signed up. We was all happy with that. We grew up as lads. We weren't sniding each other or trying to do it. We were going to place all as one.
So there's no salary differential with you guys. You didn't differentiate on salary. You all had you just had a straight 8-way split.
Yeah. Nobody got any more.
Yeah.
Everything was good.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing that breaks bands up, isn't it? Well, the other thing that breaks bands up is the financial split. Because some bands do a bigger split for your singer, some band whatever. So it's so you're all on the same 8-way split. Yeah. So everybody knows.
On the same page. We're all on the same page. We all grew up together. We knew how each other thought, and we knew that the outside world was out there to break us down or put obstacles. We just broke them down and got. As long as we were solid as a unit, we were unbreakable. We realised together we're strong, divided we fought. Yeah. If anybody tried any move on me, I'd tell the others and we'd block. We just was all for each other. We never fought like bands fought. We never argued because we realised that breaks bands up. We were so savvy, it's unbelievable. And we knew that we couldn't be bickering and things like that because we're just not going to get anywhere. So we were solid. It's everybody else around us who are not.
And can I ask you the question as well? Were you sort of disciplined? Because you're doing a lot of travelling. So as you say, you're doing all of the military bases in Germany. I've done those bases. And sometimes you can be in, let's say, Würzburg one day. For those who don't know the geography, that's down south in Germany. And let's say in Berlin the next day, which is like 800 kilometres away, 900 kilometres away. So it's a trek. So you've got to turn up on time. You've got to get one from one place to the next place on time. It costs money. So you've got to have discipline. Did you have the discipline?
Yeah, well, we were the 8-piece band, right? We knew if we didn't have discipline, we wouldn't go very far. That's just your standard. So it was up to us to be proper. Plus, the manager, he made sure a little bit of discipline because he was an older man. He was like a father figure. If we did anything wrong, he could phone our parents.
Right.
and they'd be healthy. He's told me, if you say any more, lad, I'll phone your dad. And when I get home, we'd have a go, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? But, he made sure we did things proper anyway.
Brilliant.
And we wanted to do things proper. Yeah. He was a good man.
Yeah,
but when it came to money, we found out it's a different thing. But anyway, that's for another show. Anyway, we did England now. We've done Germany, first place abroad. We're making records and we've done opportunities. We start to do Norway, Sweden, the whole of Europe, you name it.
We're going to come back to that, my friend, because we're now running through time. So listen, Trevor, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Trevor speaking, Trevor Williams, a band member, a British soul band. And as Trevor's explained to you, that wasn't particularly normal. It was the American soul bands that were spread around the world, playing the world, black bands who played the world. For a British soul band, That was...
They now would call it Britpop.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can think of people like some of the white British soul bands that started doing like this came out of Scotland.
Average White Band.
Big hit. Yeah, exactly. So those that you had some British white soul bands, but they were abnormal. So it's quite interesting. And all of the British musicians looked up to the soul bands, American soul bands. Blacks. I don't care whether they were playing heavy rock or whether they were playing folk, even name them.
Even the Stones.
Stones, David Bowie, Beatles, you name them. Every one of them's looking up to the
blues bands.
To the blues band, absolutely, because everyone started like that. But what was never done was was rarely done was that the black British bands, West Indian heritage, whatever, that they came about, and the real thing obviously was one that broke it through. So it's a fantastic story. That's why I wanted to carry on. I'm not going to just cut this short, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to move this forward to the next step and see where we go in part 2. Trevor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carlton.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you again next week.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy Podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
For almost a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.